Okay, so we're looking at problem number 5 on section 1.6. And so we have a university and 71.2% of the students in that university are undergraduates. So we want to know how many students are actually undergraduate. So basically what we need to do is we need to, one second, my device is not connected. Let me connect my tablet device, pen device. All right, here we go. Okay. So, so we need to find 71. Let me go. 0.2% of 28,663. They give us the percentage, but they want the actual number, right? So we need to go ahead and multiply. Now, 71.2%, as you know, that means 71.2 over 100, right? So you know that when you divide by a power of 10, you're going to move the decimal to the left as many places as you have zeros in the power of 10. So we notice here we have 2 zeros, right? So this is going to just be 0.712. Is that clear, Casey?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, this just becomes the same as 0.712 times 28,663, or 28,663. So now we're going to go ahead and multiply it out on the calculator. So we have 20, actually, let's start with 0.712. So 0.712 times 28,663. So if you notice, we end up with 20,408.05, etc. And if we round it to the nearest percent, that just means to the nearest whole number, right?
Okay.
So to the nearest whole number here, that's just going to be 20,408. That's where we get this number from, okay?
Okay.
So that's what you would type into here.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Now, sometimes they'll pull a fast one on you, so you have to be aware. Sometimes they'll give you this information, right? And they'll say, how many students were not undergraduates? You get the point? So if they ask you something like that, what you would want to do is, first of all, determine the percentage of students that are not undergraduate students. So what you would do is you would go ahead and calculate what 100% minus 71.2% is, right? And as you know, you're just going to subtract like this: 100 minus 71.2, and then the percent would carry. And so 100, go back to the calculator. Yeah, as long as I'm in this mode, it won't, right? Okay, so let's go in here now. So that's 28.8. So we end up with so we're going to calculate 28.8%. So you understand what we're saying, right? We're saying, look, if 71.2% is undergraduate, that means whatever that taken away from 100% is, that's going to be the percentage of people who are the students who are not undergraduates, right? So we get that. Now they could be just vocational students, or they could be graduate students. There could be any number of reasons why they're not considered undergraduate, correct? So 28.8% of 28,663 now. 600 actually. So when we calculate that, that's just going to be 0.288, right? Times 28,663. So now we'll just go back to the calculator and we will calculate 0.288 times 28,663. So we notice that 8,255, right? If we round that to the nearest whole number. So 8,255 students are not undergraduates. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So, all right. Did you have any other specific questions?
So from the chapter review homework.
All right. Let me go ahead and bring that up now.
Okay.
All right. Chapter review homework. All right. One more second. Let me just situate it. All right. So go ahead. Which one?
Number 39.
39. All right. So find the square root, right? So we have negative. So when you see the square root of a number, you ask yourself a question, right? In other words, what number squared, right, is 36, right? So do you know what that is?
Yeah, I think that the part about this that I'm confused about is what is the difference between if the negative is in front of the square root,
Okay.
or if it's like next.
Huge difference, right? Now, when it's outside like this, you can kind of think of it like this. It's like you're not taking the square root of the negative. So you can think of this as -1. There's an invisible 1 there, right? Times. So you can think of this as -1 times the square root of 36, right? So that's going to be -1 times what? You know what that is? Square root of 36, that's 6, right?
Yeah.
So now you end up with what? With -6. Normally, we don't show all that, right? Normally, when we see this, we just go like this. We say, look, the negative carries because it's not inside the radical, right? And then you just figure out what the square root of 36 is, which is what? 6. Now, if the number under the radical, right, that's called the radicand, right? Like that, radicand with a D, right? So when the radicand is negative, you still have to ask the same question, right? What's the question? What number do I have to square to get what? to get negative 36 now, right? Can you think of a number that if you square, you can get negative 36?
No.
Right, because look, what happens when you square 6? What do you get?
36.
Good. What happens when you square negative 6? Negative number, even power. Notice this is
Oh,
what
yeah,
we're
it's
going
still
to do.
going to be 36.
Exactly. Okay? In other words, there is no real number that you can square to get what? To get negative 36. You see what I mean? There is a number, but it's not what we consider to be a real number. It doesn't live on the number line, okay? That you deal with if you continue in math and take, say, algebra, regular algebra, etc., right? So here, basically all we have to say is that this is not a real number. That's all we can say right now. You see what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the difference. It's a very, very important difference because when you have the negative on the outside, right? Well, that negative is just going to carry and you're just going to get negative 6, right? But when the negative is on the inside, you're trying to find a number whose that when squared gives us negative 36. And there is no such real number. So this one we just say is not real. Okay? Like that.
Okay, cool. That helps.
All right, good.
The other question that I had was number 49.
49. All right, let's look at that. 49. Okay, so here we're dealing with the order of operations, okay? So the order of operation works like this. So there's a mnemonic. You can either remember it using the word PEMDAS, right? Or you can use the older one, which is probably easier to remember. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? So that means this is the highest level of operations that you deal with. You first take care of any grouping symbols. They could be braces, right? They could be brackets, right? Parentheses, etc. And the way you deal with this is if there's more than one kind, you work your way from the inside out, okay? So take care of the parentheses first. Once they're gone, deal with the brackets. Once those are handled, take care of the braces. You see what I mean? The next level of operation is exponents, right? So as far as actual operations go, you deal with powers first, right? Take care of powers. Then you deal with multiplication and division. Now, some people are under the erroneous belief that you do multiplication before division. That's not the case. Do you know how we handled these by any chance? Do you remember these guys? After we're finished with all the parentheses and all the exponents, these...
Yeah, I think this is the part that was confusing me because you do it from left to right then, right?
Exactly.
I
In
think
other
that's where it
words,
was messing me up. Yeah.
you scan from left to right and you perform as you encounter, okay? So whichever comes first. If multiplication comes first, then division, do the multiplication first, then the division. If division comes first, then multiplication, do the division first, then the multiplication. See what I mean? So just go left to right, whichever one of those comes first, take care of that first. Then once you're done with all those, you'll get to these, right? Those are the lowest operation priority as far as the operations go. And Here we have addition and what? And subtraction. And with these, pretty much the same thing. Work your way from left to what? To right, okay? So now looking up here, right? We do have some grouping symbols. Now this one, even though you have parentheses, they're not really doing much. They're just placeholders, right? So that's not really what we mean by take care of parentheses first, right? But this one, there is something we can do, right? We can do what? We can go ahead and do that subtraction, right? Notice that this is also a placeholder, but this one, you have to keep it. In fact, the first one I can drop. I can just say that's 8 squared, because those parentheses aren't doing anything for me, plus 2 times, now we're going to go ahead and take care of the 2 minus 5. Let's go ahead and do that. That's the only thing we're going to do right now, as far as, I mean, you know, other than dropping those first pair of parentheses. So what's 2 minus 5?
-3.
Good. So we get -3 squared and then divided by -2, like that, right? All right. So notice now if I go from, look from left to right, right? If I look at the entire system expression, I notice I have some what? I have some powers to deal with, right? Some exponents. So let's take care of those now. That's, in fact, remember, in this step, that's all we're going to do, okay? So let's take care of those. So here we get what? What's 8 squared?
64.
Right. So we get 64 plus the 2 just carries for now. And we're going to try to, and we're going to deal with this, -3, the square of -3, right? Or if you want to say it with the -3 first, you say quantity -3 squared, okay? So that you make sure you put the negative inside the parentheses, okay? So what is quantity -3 squared?
So -9.
Be careful.
Or 9.
The -3 squared, that means what? That means multiplying -3 twice, like that, right? You end up with what? You end up with a +9, right? But if the negative was not inside the parentheses, here the base is only going to be 3. The negative is just going to carry. So here you'll get negative what? -9, okay? So big difference again between this expression, quantity -3 squared, and this expression, -3 squared. And if you say it correctly, you know, if you ask a lot of students to read those, you say, okay, read these 2 expressions, right? This one and this one, right? Most, not just students, most people, right? You write this for them and they'll read them exactly the same way, right? They'll say, oh, -3 squared, right? Well, in actuality, that's not correct, okay? The correct way of reading this one is actually quantity -3 squared. When you say quantity, that means open parentheses, right? As soon as you hear the word quantity, that means what? Open parentheses. You're going to place whatever I'm going to follow with the word quantity inside the parentheses, right? So that's going to be quantity -3 squared, right? Or you can say the square of what? Of -3, right? That's okay too. This one, if you want to read it correctly, so this one, remember, is quantity -3 squared. Now, how do you read this one? This one, you just say -3 squared. See what I mean? Because here, that negative is not going to be squared. The only one that's going to be squared is the what? The 3. See what I mean?
Yes.
Like that. So I'll ask you one more time. What's the square of -3 going to be?
9.
Excellent. All right. And then don't forget, we have what? We have divided by -2. Okay. All right. I'm going to erase this stuff so we can continue real quickly. All right. So just following the order of operations, right? Following the order of operations, what comes next? What are the, let me ask you a different way. What are the operations that are still remaining?
So there's still addition, multiplication, and division.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So which one are we going to do first?
Multiplication.
Well, yeah, multiplication and division are up, and we go from left to right. The first one we encounter is this multiplication, so we take care of that first, right? So we get 64. Let's go ahead and multiply those. What's positive 2 times positive 9?
18.
Yeah, so we're going to have to write the sign. So plus or positive 18, and then divided by what? By negative 2. Notice you don't want to drop those parentheses because you never want to write two mathematical signs next to each other without at least one parenthesis separating them. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. So what do we do now? What are the operations that are still remaining?
So it's still addition and division.
Excellent. So which one are you going to do now?
Division.
Good. So you're going to get 64. You're going to leave that alone. You're going to do this division. What's positive 18 divided by negative 2?
Negative 9.
Excellent. See? Now you just have a subtraction to deal with. And what's 64 minus 9?
Isn't it addition?
No, because you just said positive 18 divided by negative 2 is negative 9, right?
Oh, okay.
Right, so it becomes just a subtraction. So, okay, you can put it like this. Let me show you. This is probably what you're thinking. That's okay too, but I'll show you how it's the same thing, right? So you're thinking that's going to be, plus negative 2, right? And negative 9, like that, right? But remember, now if you take care of multiplying those, imagine an invisible 1 right here, right? So that's like saying positive 1 times negative 9. And what's that going to be? That's going to be negative 9, right? So it basically is the same as 64 minus 9. Make sense?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Good. So what do you get?
55.
Were you here last week by any chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go back and watch that video, I did a whole thing with, multiplication rules, addition rules, and all that. That'll be a nice refresher for you too. All right, so 64 minus 9, as you know, that's just 55. Got it?
Yeah, I think that's where I was getting messed up, was that I just thought you had to do like all of the multiplication first and then all of the division instead of like as you get to it in the equation.
No, yeah, exactly. It's from left to right. Yeah, just
Okay.
as you encounter.
Okay. Cool.
All right, good.
And that's actually all the questions that I had.
All right. So is there any other ones that you want to be working on together, or are you okay?
I think I'm okay.
All right. So
on the
definitely keep going. And I'm going to say this to you, and since it's recorded, others will hear it too. That's not, this is not the only time I'm accessible. Remember, I have office hours, Mondays and Tuesdays, Wednesdays from 12 to 1, right? And also, you can just send me an email with a question number, and I'll either do a video response to you, or I'll just set up a Zoom session for you. I'll somehow get you the answer, or maybe just do a PDF if it's a simple thing. You know what I mean? And I'll get you the answer. So remember, I'm here for you guys if you need help, okay?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. All right, take care and good luck on the test, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.